All right. So the gambler, Crane goes out of his way to describe the gambler as being one of the most upright citizens of Romper. He wants to make the point that this guy is a professional. He's a professional gambler. People play with him, mostly out-of-towners who come into town with lots of money, and they lose because this guy's a professional. But he's not a crook, right? The thieving card player was so generous, so just, so moral, that in a contest he could have been put to fight the consciences of 9/10 of the citizens of Romper. So he's no thieving card player. He's really not a stereotype of a gambler until he goes to work and becomes a gambler, right? Here he's just playing cards with some of the other people in town. So the Swede comes in. The Swede insists on buying everybody a drink because that's what you do after you win a fight. Why won't it? Demanded the Swede. He walked over to the table. Because they're just like, go away, dude. Man, we're playing cards. We don't know you. Why won't it? Demanded the Swede. He stalked over to the table and by chance, he laid his hand upon the shoulder of the gambler. How about this? He asked wrathfully. I asked you to drink with me. The gambler simply twisted his head, spoke over his shoulder. My friend, I don't know you. Right? Very civilized. My friend, I don't know you. Of course, the Swede thinks he knows everybody because he read a dime store novel, right? It's like watching a cop show, Law and Order, and you think you understand exactly what it's like to be a police officer or a lawyer for that matter. Or you watch Grey's Anatomy and you think, wow, that doctoring life is great. Every day is high medical drama and you can get laid in the broom closet. I don't really think it's like that. But the Swede thinks here he is in the wild west of Nebraska. And he's gonna make that guy drink with him, and he grabs him. Oh hell, answered the Swede, come have a drink with me. Now, my boy, advised the gambler, take your hand off my shoulder and go away and mind your own business. What, you won't drink with me, you little dude? I'll make you, then I'll make you. The Swede grasped the gambler. And the barkeeper dashed around the corner of the bar. The barkeeper's supposed to keep peace, right? It shot forward. There was seen a long blade in the hand of the gambler. It shot forward, and a human body, the citadel of virtue, wisdom, and power. Yeah, right. Was pierced so easily as if it had been a melon. And so the gambler pulls out his knife, kills the Swede. Because you know what? When you're a gambler and you're attacked, that's what you do. The Swede forces him to play the part. The Swede forces the people to fight with him at the Blue Hotel. The Swede is forcing everybody into the stereotyped roles that he expects from them. And it's kind of funny. The bartender rings up a sale. The corpse of the Swede alone in the saloon had his eyes fixed upon the dreadful legend that dwelt atop the cash machine. This registers the amount of your purchase. That's what the Swede bought. That's what he went out there really to have happen to him. And the gambler knows he's got to do some time. He says, you know where to find me. And that's that. But then we get this little extra section 9, right? And a lot of the people here are sort of together out further out west. Months later, the cowboy with a frying pork over the stove of a little ranch near the Dakota line. So that's up in the northern part of Nebraska. It's interesting to go to Nebraska. I've been to Nebraska, spent some time there. It's good to see the Midwest. There's no reason to go back, but it's good to see. It's a different culture. The people are different. It's very flat. But it's good to get out there and see the heartland of America. There's a stereotype for you. So the Easterner is out here with the cowboy. And the Easterner understands everything that happened. Couldn't stop it, didn't try to stop it, but he understands everything about the events around the Swede. Well, said the Easterner, that chap that killed the Swede has got 3 years. Wasn't much, was it? 3 years in jail. He has 3 years, the cowboy poised his pan of pork. 3 years, that ain't much. No, it was a light sentence, replied the Easterner. Seems like there's a good deal of sympathy for him in Romper. If the bartender had been any good, observed the cowboy thoughtfully, he would have gone in and cracked that there Dutchman on the head with a bottle in the beginning of it and stopped all this here murdering. So the cowboy, not looking to take any personal responsibility here, says, the bartender screwed it up. The Easterner, yes, 1,000 things might have happened. Deep, said the Easterner tartly. The cowboy returned his pan of pork to the fire, but his philosophy continued. It's funny, isn't it? If he hadn't said Johnny was cheating, he'd be alive this minute. He was an awful fool. Interesting, right? If he hadn't said Johnny was cheating, he'd be alive. Maybe he would have found somebody else to kill him. I feel sorry for the gambler, said the Easterner. Oh, so do I, said the cowboy. He doesn't deserve none of it for killing who he did. The Swede might not have been killed if everything had been square. Might not have been killed, exclaimed the cowboy. Everything's square? Why? When he said that Johnny was cheating and acted like such a jackass, and then in the saloon he fairly walked up to get hurt. With these arguments, the cowboy browbeat the Easterner and reduced him to a rage. So the Easterner is finally getting worked up here. You're a fool, cried the Easterner. You're a bigger jackass than the Swede, by a million majority. Now let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you something. Listen, Johnny was cheating. Johnny, said the cowboy blankly. There was a minute of silence. Why no, the game was only for fun. It doesn't make sense to Johnny. Johnny's not real bright. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to the cowboy. The cowboy's not real bright. Fun or not, said the Easterner. I love this part. Holy cow. Fun or not, said the Easterner, Johnny was cheating. I saw him. I know it. I saw him. And I refused to stand up and be a man. I let the Swede fight it out alone, because the Easterner was being cheated against also. He was partners with the Swede in this game. And you were simply puffing around the place and wanting to fight. And then old Scully himself, we're all in it. I love this. I love this sentence. The poor gambler isn't even a noun. He is kind of an adverb. Yeah. You can't have a sentence without a noun, right? And a verb. You need a noun and a verb to make a sentence. A subject and a verb. A subject is a noun. And the Easterner says the poor gambler isn't even a noun, right? And the verb is the important part of the sentence, the action. He's a kind of adverb, right? A word that describes a verb. It's one of the weakest words in the sentence. You can take out every adverb in history and still have complete sentences. Every sin is the result of a collaboration. We 5 of us have collaborated in the murder of this Swede. Usually there are from a dozen to 40 women. That's never really understood that line. Involved in every murder. But in this case, it seems to be only 5 men. You, I, Johnny, old Scully, and that fool of an unfortunate gambler came merely as a culmination, the apex of a human movement, and gets all the punishment. The cowboy, injured and rebellious, cried out blindly into the fog of mysterious theory. He can't get it. It's not penetrating his skull. Well, I didn't do anything, did I? The cowboy, Johnny, they can't conceive of anything outside themselves. They're very self-centered. Perfect last line. Well, I didn't do anything, did I? I didn't stab them. And the Easterner is making the point that they were all complicit in the death of the Swede. Okay? Scully charms the Swede into staying instead of like, I should just let this nutcase leave. He appeals to his heart with the picture of the dead daughter. He gives him whiskey, right? And gets him all fired up. Then Johnny's cheating and won't admit it. The Easterner knows Johnny's cheating and won't support the Swede in his assertion. They have the fight, and the cowboy's running around saying, kill him, kill him, kill him. So he's just encouraging and playing into the Swede's paranoia. And then the Swede wins the fight, goes to the bar, and then what's left? The cowboy is the gambler. The gambler isn't even a noun. He's just an adverb. And he's the last person, the fired up Swede. He goes and grabs him to come have a drink with him. And the gambler does what you do when someone attacks you like that. You pull out your knife and you stab them. But if all the preceding events hadn't happened, if the others hadn't all been a part of it, the Swede would still be alive. The gambler would not be in jail. None of them are able to read the codes, right? So that's another big theme in this story. Number one, men are all complicit. All these men are complicit. They're all participated in this horrible event, the death of the Swede. You know, he's a little wacko. He's not terrible. But it's also a story about reading the codes and understanding. The Easterner can actually understand. The Swede is paranoid. Johnny's cheating and very childish. Scully's playing the part of the innkeeper, so he's just going to try to paper over this whole problem and just get everybody to pay their bill and send everybody on their way. But there's a failure to communicate. There's a failure to connect. Even though they're sitting so closely together, they cannot understand each other. Johnny and the cowboy do not understand that the Swede is paranoid, and they end up playing into it. The Easterner does understand it, but he's too reserved because he's playing his part as the reserved Easterner who fails to act, right? He fails to act, unlike an action man of the West. And the gambler just finishes it off by playing his part. If you're a gambler and someone grabs you by the throat, you stab them. You stab them. So self-fulfilling prophecy, a lack of understanding of the social codes, the codes of behavior, self-fulfilling prophecy, and there's actually a lot of other stuff going on here, but 3 parts is enough on the Blue Hotel. It's a striking story, and honestly, it's a story that you might not think will stick with you, but it's intense to read. And I read this story in short stories class, Columbia Green, 1989, and it's a story that always stuck with me. And I like teaching it. It's not real easy, but it's a story that always stuck with me, and I bet it'll stick with you as well. At least I hope it does.